What's up, you guys? It's Adam Hume here with another 5 meaningful minutes. And today, I want to talk briefly about what I'm going to call the other side of obedience. You know, if you've been going to church for any amount of time, you've heard stories in the Bible about Abraham, about Isaac, about Jacob, about Gideon, about Jonah, about Daniel, about David, about Paul and Jesus and the disciples. And you've heard all these stories about people who are obedient to God in some really crazy ways. You know, I mean, just really crazy things, like Jonah having to go to Nineveh, and you know, he was afraid, and so, you know, he tried to run away from God. You have Abraham, you know, leaving his land and the people he knew because God called him and told him to go. You have Abraham, you know, being told to sacrifice his son. You have Gideon being told to take an army of a great multitude down to 300 men. You know, you have Daniel, you know, standing up to Nebuchadnezzar and not bowing down. I mean, you have all these people in the Bible who are crazy obedient. And, you know, we get to see both sides of the coin when we read those stories in the Bible. We get to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. And the thing that's dangerous about that is we feel like our obedience to God always has to have an end in sight. You know, if God asks us to do something, we go, well, what's the end goal? What's the end result? You know, God, I want to know that I'm going to be taken care of. I want to know that there's going to be a blessing at the end of this. God, I want to know that my story is going to end in a miraculous way, like all these stories that I read in the Bible. You know, to be candid with you guys, Lucy, my wife, and I, we're in the middle of a crazy obedience story right now, you know, where God called us to Denver. We feel like we were supposed to move out here. We left our job, our life of 9 years in Atlanta. We sold almost all of our possessions and we moved out here. And the other side of obedience to that has not been, or it hasn't felt like blessing. You know, I'm in the middle of this story, and I'm in the middle of this season right now where it could be all too easy for me to look at God all the time and go, what's the deal, man? What's the deal? You told us to come out here. When are you going to come through for me? And I have to pause and be cautious, you know, because just because God told me to come out here doesn't necessarily mean that his hand of provision or direction or vision is going to be apparent right away. Once again, it's easy for me to see the beginning, middle, and end of all the heroes of the faith in the Bible and their obedience to God. And I have to tell myself that my obedience to God may take months, it may take years before I look back and go, wow, God was faithful. And so this is what I want to encourage you with today. If God is asking you to be obedient in something, it might be a difficult thing. It might be breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend that's not good for you. It might be letting go of some negative friendships that you know aren't benefiting your relationship with God. It might be not pursuing that college or career because you know it's not what God has for you. It might be giving to this organization or whatever because you feel prompted of the Holy Spirit to give sacrificially. I don't know what it is, but just because the end goal or the end result of your obedience isn't seen doesn't mean you shouldn't be obedient. You know, me and Lucy moved out here because we thought being obedient to God would mean open doors and provision and being able to move on to God's next best thing right away. And we're finding in this season that it's difficult to be obedient to God. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be obedient. And so I want to encourage you with that today. If God's asking you to be obedient to something that's difficult, do it. Even if it's not easy right away. Even if it's not easy right away. Even if it ushers you into a season of difficulty, like the season that I'm in right now, that me and my wife are in right now, I still can rest assured that I'm in God's will because I've been obedient to him. And I want to encourage you with that thought today. If God's asking you to be obedient in a difficult manner, be obedient no matter how difficult it is. Because it's better to live in obedience even when it's difficult than live in disobedience and outside of God's will. So hey, that's it for today's 5 Meaningful Minutes. I hope that you guys have a great day.